The UFC 330 card has taken another hit as welterweight Geoff Neal is out of his fight with Chidi Njokuani. They're looking for a replacement for Chidi on this card. We'll see who that ends up being, but obviously one of the bigger names on this event, Geoff Neal. And my understanding is they didn't post it here, but he has an injury. So I was actually supposed to interview Geoff a couple weeks ago. Kind of got the feeling that something was up and then he was going to be out of this fight, but didn't have both sides to confirm it. Marcel did, so he's the one that reports this. Shout out to our guy, Big Marcel, one of the best newsbreakers in the industry when it comes to everything fight news related. So yeah, I did a video, I think almost a week ago, if you look at it here on the channel, saying UFC 330 is not looking very good. Since I did that video, maybe I've cursed things. We have the Aaron Blanchfield and Jasmine Jasovicius fight, which has moved to UFC Edmonton. This fight's off. UFC 330 is looking very grim, other than the two title fights. I said it before. This looks like a fight night card for some of the matchups that they put together here. Some bad matchmaking. So this fight's off. We still have some decent names on here. And I've had a lot of people ask me like, hey, James, are they going to add any more big fights to 330? And my answer would be no. And I talked about that in the other video where the UFC's kind of gotten in a bad habit of where if a fight falls off, even if it's big or notable, they don't usually replace it with another big fight. I think the last time this happened, when they did have somewhat of a notable fight, was they added King Green and Terrence McKinney to UFC 329. We'll see. We still got a bit of time here. At the time I'm recording this, it's July 29th, but we're about 2 weeks away from that card, and there's no, it doesn't look like there's going to be any sort of big name replacement fight on that card. Not to mention, I didn't even mention this in the other video, no Joe Pyfer on this card, no Sean Brady. The only local guy they have on this card is Jeremiah Wells. That's also not good too. So really rough here for UFC 330. And I know some people talk about the fact that, hey, there's no pay-per-views anymore, but if you're outside of the US, some markets, like where I live here in Canada, you still have to pay $70 for the pay-per-view. Now look, I think the two title fights are going to be great. I'm looking forward to those. I just think the UFC has really gotten away with kind of just saying, well, we have our main and co-main event. Doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the card. Now, I'll throw something else out here for you guys too. Like I think if this was the old UFC, and when I say the old UFC, like maybe like a decade ago, this is something they would have considered. So they did announce yesterday, and I wanted to tie this into this video, that Joaquin Buckley is going to be fighting Mike Malott in Edmonton in October. And obviously, Mike Malott has been used for all the Canada cards. They don't have a ton of Canadian fighters on the roster. They're very high on Malott. Malott's been getting some very good matchmaking, right? Let's be honest. He's been fighting some, a lot of older fighters and fighters that, I think are notable in the division. Kevin Holland, Gilbert Burns. They've been very generous to Mike Malott as far as the matchmaking goes, which understandable. They keep going back. You want to have a Canadian on the card. I know to the non-Canadian watching this card, you're going, why is Mike Malott getting another main event? Well, it's because they're high on him and they're catering to the market. Now, imagine in a different world that they're not so concerned about the events coming up, and they're not so concerned about spreading the wealth, and they just want to make quality cards. This would have been a fine replacement for Aaron and Jasmine, and for Geoff Neal being off the card as well. This would have been a good fight. I don't think anyone's going to complain. Sure, it would be 3 rounds instead of 5, but this is the type of thing the UFC could have done. They could have went to both guys and said, look, we'll give you a bit of a pay bump. You can come take this fight on short notice. The fans will be happy. Yes, Philly doesn't have anything to do with Mike Malott or Joaquin Buckley, but still, like that is a fight they announced yesterday, and I couldn't help but think when I saw the Neal news today that this is a fight they could have moved to this card on short notice, right? And listen, I know obviously Malott's on a win streak. Buckley's coming off another loss. A loss for either guy would be very tough, but I miss the days where the UFC would sort of beef up cards here for events like UFC 330. And I'm going to the Edmonton card. Like, I'm looking forward to this fight, but I'm just using this as an example to show that like UFC these two agreed to fight. Could they have not gotten this on short notice to beef up the 330 card? But if I had to guess right now, again, I'm recording this on July 29th, they are not going to add another big fight to this card. Are they going to add another fight? Possibly, but I don't think it's going to be any notable fighters on this event, right? That's kind of my thinking here. I think they're just going to maybe add another fight or two. I've heard some people talk about the Ultimate Fighter matchups, the winners of that being on this card. I don't think that's the case. What I'm hearing is, I haven't heard anything that they're going to add anything to this card. So if you bought tickets, if you're someone like me who's going to buy the pay-per-view, listen, I don't think you're getting your money's worth personally, because a lot of these fights has fallen out and they have not replaced them. Another thing I wanted to add in this video too, if you guys taken a look at next week's card, and again, you imagine they're going to add some more fights, but this card, and I know it's at the Apex, right? And I know it's a fight night card, so you don't need to expect too much, but there's 9 fights on this card, right? I think last time I checked, let me do my count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right, 9 fights. That doesn't happen too often where they have such a small card. And by the way, I'm not opposed to this. I don't know why every card has to be, 12 to 14 fights. They have a big roster. Obviously, they got to fill up spots. I don't mind the night ending a bit earlier. The card's going to be on at 2 Eastern. So It'll be on even earlier here on the West Coast. I don't mind them having shorter cards, but it's also something they haven't really acknowledged. And is it like the UFC, like I said, like once they did the White House card, once they did 329, it was going to be kind of tough to build these cards and make them very intriguing to the fans. And listen, that doesn't mean the cards aren't going to be good, but I'm just saying on paper, the quality of what a UFC card means is definitely gone down a lot. And it doesn't help when they try and stack events. And look, I'm not complaining about the White House card or 329. Those are great events, and I'm glad the UFC did that. But I'm just saying going forward, this is what you're left with, which is not a whole lot. And I mentioned this in the other video. I'll say it here again. The UFC, could make these cards better if they combined cards and took more breaks in between, right? They don't have to have a card every week, but with the Paramount deal, they have to do a certain amount of shows. It's just hard to keep up. And I feel like in a lot of cases, the UFC is spreading things thin. So that's my thoughts. Now, quickly, before we get out of here, who should fight Chidi? I don't know who's available right now. Neal, I don't think was ranked because of him losing the last time. I don't know if you're going to get a ranked opponent. Is it going to, this is the other thing I wonder, and they have a bad habit of doing this too. Is it going to be a case where Chidi ends up fighting like a newcomer, someone that's signed on short notice? That could happen. We see that a lot, right? We had, what was it? I mean, Farid Bashrat, when he fought at 329, he fought a newcomer where he really had nothing to gain, and he didn't gain anything from that fight because he actually didn't perform that well. And John Garza ended up looking great. Like, is that what we're doing? Like, that's another thing I think the UFC has a bad habit of doing. Like, Chidi should be fighting a mainstay UFC welterweight on the roster if they do end up getting an opponent. But I'm looking here, like, he's not fighting Amosov. Well, maybe he does. I'm probably not. Well, no, Chidi's not ranked. So he'll get another non-ranked opponent. Yeah, he's not getting anyone from the rankings here. So, yeah, I don't be surprised if Chidi is on this card. They give him like a newcomer, which I don't think makes any sense. To me, if you've been in the UFC for a while, you should not be fighting a newcomer unless it's a fighter coming off like a ton of losses. Like, I don't even remember, is Chidi, he's on, I think, a bit of a losing streak right now. How much of a losing streak? Yeah, he's off back-to-back wins. Okay, maybe not. Maybe he doesn't have a big say in this. So it very well could be someone that's a newcomer there. And it could also be someone from the same management company that he's from, which they do that a lot, where they have certain management companies that like have fighters on standby that are ready to step in here. So we'll see what happens to Chidi. I'm sure they will keep him on the card, but it won't be someone as notable as Geoff Neal. That's kind of the point I'm making. While we're also in this video, because I know people are asking me about it, my thoughts on Buckley and Malott. I think this makes sense for Malott. To me, it was like him and Leon Edwards or him and someone else. Like, I don't think they were going to do him and Bonfim because Bonfim is... they're going to use him for the Brazil market as well. Like, they're kind of using certain fighters for certain markets. And I also think like they've been building Malott up. I don't know how that would go, him fighting a guy like Bonfim. He's getting Buckley off a couple losses. I've maintained with Buckley, I think he is an interesting case in the division where I think he's been a little bit overrated in the weight class, right? Like, if you look at some of his best wins, they're against older fighters, right? You got Stephen Thompson, you got Colby Covington. Ruziabov, I'll give him that one, although that guy's been bouncing around weight classes. The Luque win has aged well. Luque, obviously a middleweight now. And then you got 2 wins against guys like Morono and Filau, who aren't even in the UFC anymore. So I don't know what Buckley is. I mean, if he wins this fight, if he knocks out Malott, obviously he's much better than we thought, or maybe to where we thought he was before the Usman fight. But I still have some questions because I see a lot of people on my timeline going, oh, Buckley knockout, Buckley knockout. I mean, the last knockout win, the TKO win he had was a doctor stoppage against Colby. And then he did knock out Stephen Thompson, but that's like 2 years ago. And Thompson was, what, 38 in that? He was 41 in that fight, right? Malott's not that old. I actually went and looked. Malott he's only 2 years older than Buckley. So it's not a case of that as well. We also know Buckley has some weakness in wrestling. Will Malott try and wrestle in this fight? It's going to be a very interesting matchup. I don't know who's going to win this fight yet. This will be one I'm going to go an early look. But I'm not of the belief that Buckley's just going to like steamroll him. I see a lot of people doing that. And I think part of that too is people don't like Malott because of the Magny fight, because he was supposed to win and he didn't, and he gassed out and all this stuff. And even though that fight was a couple of years ago, I feel like people are still talking about that as like a thing here. So the only thing I'll say on this matchup is I think it's going to be close on paper. And I think it's a good fight for both guys to kind of prove to see where they're in the division. Is Malott good? I mean, Malott has had a pretty... easier schedule, I'd say. I mean, you're fighting Gilbert Burns on his retirement fight. The Kevin Holland fight was close, but Holland, I don't think is, really made much noise in the division. With Buckley, again, he's got some wins, but not against the best opposition. And then the opposition he has fought in the contender ranks, like Brady and Usman, he didn't look so good. Those were one-sided fights. So good test for both guys. I might lean Buckley in this one just because of the age, but again, I'm going to dig in a little bit more on the stats and everything. And I don't think it's a guarantee that Buckley wins. And, Malott is going to be a little bit taller, but then Buckley's going to have a bit of a reach advantage in this fight too. So Yeah, I just bring this fight up because, like, if this was the old UFC, they could have just put this card on the Philly card, pay the guys a little bit more, and they'll take it. But obviously, they have a schedule, and they like to put fighters around that schedule in the region. With Malott being Canadian, the card being in Edmonton in October, it makes sense. It was just a matter of finding him an opponent. So yeah, that's my thoughts on everything. UFC 330 takes another hit. Next week's card's only got 9 fights. This is the UFC post White House card. This is what you're going to get. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who should replace Geoff Neal against Chidi? What fights would you add on the card? And keep in mind, you just don't see a lot of big name fighters take short notice fights anymore. It's just the way the UFC's been as of late. I kind of feel like they might just leave it, or they might not even find it. I'm going to predict this. Chidi's going to fight a newcomer or someone who only has a couple fights, and then they're not going to replace the Jasmine and Aaron fight. They're just going to be like, whatever, that happens. And then maybe we will just get 9 fights next week. We'll see. Let me know your thoughts on this. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.